Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Keith. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. If you can see my slides okay and hear me okay, feel free to type in a 7 just so I know we're good to go when we get started here. Right, you should have access now in the chat to type in a 7 if you can hear me okay. And see the slides okay. Great, thank you all. All right, again, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes, or not even that. Hopefully you're all enjoying your Friday. Should be a beautiful weekend here in North Carolina. All right, everybody. Again, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're all doing well and getting excited for summer. One question I get a lot from folks over the last couple of years is, Dr. Keith, how do I know? How do I know if there's consolidation in the market when it's finally going to break out, right? And first and foremost, there's no perfect answer, right? I mean, we wish there was, obviously, but what I'm going to show you today is pretty cool stuff. I'm excited to share with everybody. It's the launch. Okay, sorry, I had some technical difficulty there. I should be good now. Okay. All right. So again, just type in a 7 if you can hear me okay and see me okay. Just want to make sure before we continue on here. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, so consolidation happens quite a bit, whether you're trading a futures contract, a Forex contract, stocks. And it's fairly important to kind of find ways to understand and at least know that, right? To me, those of you that know me and have been following me for a while, I'm okay with not taking trades, right? I have no problem. I don't have the FOMO anymore, which is the fear of missing out. But if something is quote unquote consolidating, I at least want to get a clue that it's doing that, okay? So what do you think, folks? This is a question for everybody. How often do stocks, futures, and Forex consolidate? Just as a general guide, what do you think? Hey, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff says 70% of the time. Wayne, 80. Rick's not sure. James is about 60. About 70 to 80, 75. So I think we're all in agreement, though, quite a bit, right? So regardless of what the percentages are, you know, from my research and from what I've seen, I tend to agree 60 to 80% of the time, you know, you can look at a stock, a futures or a Forex and say, okay, you know what? I think it looks like consolidation, right? And, you know, really when I say consolidation, what I'm talking about is back and forth movement. Okay, there can actually be some decent movement, but it's back and forth. So one day it's up, the next day it's down. And obviously in those type of situations, it's really hard to make money as a swing trader because you know you go along and all of a sudden a day or two it goes against you and vice versa, right? So that's one thing we're going to talk about today is kind of how I handle those type of situations. Again, consolidations do not last for a specific amount of time. You know, the length can vary dramatically depending on, you know, what you're looking to trade. The consolidation period may only last for a couple of hours, right? Or on the other hand, it can range and remain for days or even months. You know, if you're looking at a small time frame, let's say a 5-minute chart, right? It could consolidate for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bars, or it can consolidate for 30, 40 bars. But we really want to look for something that can give us a clue that that consolidation period, you know, may be over, right? That's critical in trading, whether you're trading off of a 1-minute chart or a monthly chart or everything in between. You know, to me, that's very important to understand. By the way, so today's presentation shouldn't last more than 40, 45 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it fairly short today. And we're going to go mainly into live charts. Okay, so just a few PowerPoints to kind of set the tone, and then we'll get into some of the live charts. So my DRK market fluctuation gauge, again, I call it MFG. Okay, this is for ThinkorSwim. This is for toss only. And basically what it looks to do is to predict breakouts. Okay, what it'll do is it'll show periods of consolidation. And so when it's above the red line, I basically created, it's an oscillator. And this oscillator, because most of you understand the concept of an oscillator, right? Now it's a little unique because what I focus on is this red line. But the premise is once it goes above the red line, okay, now we're in some pretty good potential back and forth consolidation. Okay, and then what I look to do is when it breaks back down through the red line in this case, okay, that's when I look for taking a directional move. Okay, and it's really interesting. You know, you can go back and look at certain charts and certain stocks, for example, and when you go look at the price at the top and it's been going like this, a lot of times this MFG will catch it and it'll just be above the red. Okay, and so that in itself is super valuable. Okay, but then what I'm using it for as well, obviously, is then once it breaks through, I'm looking for those directional trades, which again, I'm going to show you how I do it today. Okay. Again, this market fluctuation gauge, MFG, does not pick direction. It's not the intent of it. The intent is to tell you whether something's consolidating or not. I'm going to show you again what I use with this strategy to pick direction. The cool thing is you may have other entries that you like to do, like other oscillators, for example, that you may like to do in conjunction once it gives you the AOK. It's time to look for those big moves to that direction. Okay, I'm going to show you what I use. Okay. Oh yes, this is being recorded and we'll send it out to everybody that's registered. Absolutely. Okay. So again, the goal of this gauge, the MFG, is to predict breakouts. And so when it's above the red line here, okay, this area here, we're looking at consolidation. Okay, and then you look at the price, you know, it's kind of in that square, right? And then when it breaks through, okay, once it goes back through the red line, you got this green line coming down. That's saying there's a potential breakout, a potential big move coming. Again, it's not forecasting which direction. You know, a traditional oscillator, when it's designed, right? When it's like this, you're looking for shorts. That's not how the MFG is designed. It's focused on once it breaks through the red, then you pick your direction, you know, based on whether you use the MACD, whether you use the Laguerre, whether you use a stochastic, whatever it is that you use, then you can pick that direction. Okay. And this will work at any time frame, meaning, you know, this could be a daily chart and it'll adjust accordingly. It could be a 5-minute chart, it could be a 4-hour, you know, 233 tick, you know, whatever it is that you're looking for. It works on all time frames. So how do I locate these type of opportunities? Again, we'll get to that here when we get to live charts as well, but I've created a scan. So when I go back here and say, okay, how would I have known that stock A here now has a opportunity for me to look for a trade based off of the move below this red line? Well, I've created a scan for that. Okay, and the scan works on any time frame. So, you know, let's say you're a day trader and you're wanting a 1-minute scan or a 5-minute scan or a 4-hour if you're a swing trader or a daily. Okay, you can run the scan at any time frame you want, and it's finding those opportunities based on that time frame. Okay, again, and those of you that know me know it's all about convenience for me. It's all about saving time and finding those setups. Okay, I do like to use the MFG as its own strategy, meaning I look for breakouts all the time with this strategy, just because there's so many times where you'll see a stock futures or a forex pair that gets stretched over here and then it starts heading down, and you usually get some pretty nice retracements. And if it's been consolidating for a long period, typically the higher it goes above the red, okay, the potential larger the move to the downside. Okay. All right, so let's go into live charts here. All right, so I'm keeping my charts pretty basic today on purpose so I don't confuse people. Okay, so what you're going to see here is just a regular price chart. Okay, because yes, I use Heikin-Ashi candles, but many of you don't. So I'm just showing regular price candles here. Okay, and then this is the MFG indicator right here on the bottom. And then there's something else here I'm going to open up in just a minute down here. Don't worry about it yet. Okay, don't worry about this yet. But let's just kind of go through it. So I have the Dow up here, right? The mini Dow. This is a futures contract. And I've got it on, as you can see here, the daily chart. Okay. So let's just take a look at the 3 signals on this chart during this period since February. Okay. So you had one here, you had one here, and then you had one just recently, right? So those are 3 recent MFG triggers. So you can see in this case, the market had a pretty nice downturn. It triggered again. It had a pretty nice upturn. And now, right, we don't know what's going to happen, but the big move looks like it wants to be to the upside, right? Based on at least today's candle too, right? So that's where this can come into play also, which again, to me is just as important. Let me move this over just a little bit. Okay. So during this, when the line, the values was above this red line, you see what price is doing? So again, this is a daily chart. So as a swing trader, if this above the red line, you're better off probably not trading that particular instrument. Okay. But then once it breaks through, you can use your favorite oscillator to pick your direction. Make sense? So again, 1 opportunity, 2 opportunities, 3 opportunities. Okay. So now let me expand to show you specifically how I use it. Okay, I have my modified stochastic here. And the reason I use this over my Laguerre most of the time is this by design triggers faster. And so I want to know the direction as soon as possible. So like, for example, when you look at this one here, right, the MFG went below the red. I saw, okay, this had a recent cross to the downside. My directional bias is to the downside. here, where it broke down to the downside here, we had a cross back over here. My directional bias is to the upside. Okay. And then the recent one, right here, we had the cross to the upside, and now we have the move going to the upside. Okay, so this can be very useful. And as you know, the markets in many cases, this is the Dow, which is part of the stock, obviously the overall stock market futures. When you get periods of a lot of consolidation, sometimes this will stay above the red line for days at a time. Then you're better off just leaving it alone and looking for something that's not, in theory, consolidating. Okay, so again, pretty simple from that standpoint, right? So let's look at another example. I just brought up Caterpillar. Okay, I was looking for some recent examples to show you. Well, you can look at the most recent example on Caterpillar, right? Time will tell, but right here, right, you can see the move to the downside, and now we've got the cross to the upside. Okay, back here, you had the move up, back through, right? This is the trigger. This is the setup of the trigger, I should say, right here. Then you had the cross right here. Let's look at AutoZone. And then I'm going to explain a little bit more about this indicator. So AutoZone, so again, during this period where it's above the red, okay, that's a no trade zone. Okay, then it breaks through. You have the cross to the downside, and you have this. Okay. Okay, now one of the questions I get will be, why is the line red, green, and so forth? And what I've created is just to show you if the value from the previous day is lower. Because the way this works is if this continues down like this and gets below the green, okay, what that means is that we're continuing to stay in a non-consolidating market. Okay, so as long as it's continuing down, you're not consolidating. Okay, in theory, right? Obviously, nothing works 100% of the time. Okay? Then as you start heading higher, there's more risk as it's heading higher that now you may start consolidating. Certainly once it gets then above the red line, okay, by definition, you're in consolidation mode. Okay, but when you see these, a lot of green, okay, that's a good thing for that particular trade. Okay. All right, Nike. So this is something you'll see a lot of when you consolidate for longer periods. Okay, I get really excited about that. Okay, see how excited I get? Because the more you consolidate, okay, see how well that caught that consolidation, right? And what that means is, hey, you look for that biased once it breaks through. So right here, you had the cross when the white went below the green again. Okay, so that is your bias to the short side. And Nike has had a nice move to the downside. But you'll notice a lot of the bigger moves like this is when you see a lot more consolidation up there. Okay, again, this is the daily chart, which I'll go over different time frames in just a few minutes. But the longer it stays up here and the higher it gets, okay, to me, it's kind of like something that's going to explode. It's just waiting to make that larger move. All right, let's look at the Qs. All right, so we hit a new high today on the Qs. That's fantastic. And you take a look here, right? We had some consolidation, right here. You can see how price consolidated, and then it broke through with the bias being to the upside. Okay, the bias being to the upside, and then you can see what happened. It started, then wait a minute. Now it's consolidating again, right? on the stochastic. Well, I don't care. It's okay. Once you're in an opportunity like that, okay, only focus on how that MFG is treating you. So as long as it's continuing down below the green like that, we'll probably continue to head to, in this case, to the upside based off of that trigger. Okay. All right, bring up a futures, trying to mix it up a little bit. This is crude on the daily. So we had a recent opportunity. You see how it came through. Then you had the trigger yesterday. Okay. Trigger yesterday. So what's going to happen now? We don't know. Can also tell you how significant it can be based off of if you get a lot of the triggers, right? So we haven't had consolidation based off the MFG all year until just recently. Okay, Microsoft. Let me actually clear these drawings, at least some of them. There. All right, so you can see this one here with the long trigger, right? So move down, the stochastic cross to the long side. Then we can see here briefly there. Then the cross was to the downside right here. That was a false signal. The stochastic got it wrong, right? The bigger move's happening, but the stochastic based off of overreaction. You could see it went to the downside there, okay? The MFG itself picked two nice moves there. XLV for like an ETF like healthcare. You can see here it went above the red, consolidated. Boom. Same thing back here. Boom. But when you're in that consolidation, right, you don't want to take the opportunities. There's no reason to. You can find something that is already out of that consolidation period. Meta. So Meta recently to the upside, had the cross here, higher. The dollar index, same thing. See this consolidation period? See what happened with price? Then it broke through right here. Okay. And again, the Stoch by design typically will trigger early. Then I wait for that move. Okay. That's why I like the Stoch. I want to know, okay, the directional movement, bam. And Mara, I wanted to show you this. This is current, right? So what do you think? Based off of this, is Mara a good long or short play right now? What do you think? Based off of this indicator. Yeah, I would say none whole, right? Because it's above this red line. So that means consolidation, and that's exactly what it's doing. Okay. Once this comes below the red line, and then we get a stochastic direction, whether it's up or down, then we can pick our direction. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's where this is, to me, super valuable. I can look at anything on my chart to see if it's in a no trade zone now. Okay. All right, let me go to a 4-hour chart. Let's look at Google. Okay, so 4-hour chart on Google, you can see there is a couple here with a cross to the upside. and then just recently with the cross to the upside. Okay, so that's the question now. Is it going to go upside? Here, it went up with that. So on the 4 hour, obviously there's more triggers. It happens more often because you're off a smaller time frame. We can look at Caterpillar as well off that smaller time frame. You can see it consolidated here. Then you got the trigger on the stochastic, and that made a nice explosion to the upside there. The VIX, I love looking at this on the VIX because you get when you get this, what does that tell you overall about the entire market system? Typically back and forth. Okay, back and forth. And then just recently we had a trigger to the short side on the VIX, right? Which also tells you in theory, the market should go higher like they have been, right? So you can use the VIX as kind of that pre-market gauge, that forecast, right? Excellent. All right, let's take a look at like a 5-minute chart. Okay, we'll take a look at like Apple. See if there's anything brewing there. So right here, it was consolidating. This was pre-market. And then you had a cross to the short side. Consolidating. Consolidating. On the stochastic. Okay, again, doesn't matter. The bottom line is right here. It's what we focus on. So you see how it's right in this line right here during lunch period, kind of. But then you can pick direction with the stochastic. So we only had on the 5-minute, we actually haven't had a trade yet today on the 5-minute. This was pre-market, other than right here, it started going below. So if anything, you would have been biased to the short side there, right? Look at Tesla. I know a lot of people day trade Tesla. So on Tesla, you had consolidation pre-market, then the move to the downside with the cross, bias to the upside, and then no new opportunities there. It also has shown that it has not been consolidating either, right? But what you like to see is how it continues down like this. And that's, in this case, is that move up. All right, any questions on that? I'm going to get into some of how I find these next. Yeah, pretty simple, right? Okay, perfect. All right, so now I'm going to go over to the scan. Okay, and I've got it loaded in here. My scan, and I'm just saying with stocks, for example, you can scan anything you want, okay? But I put scan in weeklies with the daily time frame. Again, you can do any time frame you want. We'll do different time frames. Then I'm going to hit scan. And it brings up the list today of all the daily opportunities based off of that. Okay, so let's just take a look at a couple. So let's say Southwest Airlines. Okay, I'm just going to go look at the chart now. I'm going to go to the daily. So the reason it was showing a trigger, you see how it came out of the red. Okay. And so now the white line went above the green, so the bias is to the upside. Okay. The bias is to the upside. Typically, my favorite trades, by the way, is when the oscillator triggers from below the red or above the green. Okay, so I can choose to ignore this since it didn't trigger back here. That makes sense. Remember, you can get as selective as you want based off of that. And again, with my stochastic that I use, my favorites are when it goes up and through, or down and up. Okay, those are my favorite opportunities. All right, so if I go back to scan, let's take a look at MetLife. So again, it's dipped below the red line here, the white crossing above. So, is MetLife making a move to the upside now? Right, that's the question. Take a look at BITO. Coming back through. Cross to the short side. When I look at something like BITO here, the last time it made a move in forecasts to the upside, right there. The range isn't that great on BITO, but just to kind of show you. So at this point, we're looking at maybe a breakdown through that lower part. All right, Whirlpool. We'll go to a different time frame in just a second. I just wanted to show you a few of these. And you can run these scans. Okay, so Whirlpool came out of consolidation with the bias to the upside. Okay, and these I like a little bit better. Granted, I would have liked it if again, it was down here and coming out. But what I like about that is there serves to be a lot of support at 126, right? And now you're getting that forecast big move probably back up here, right? All right, so now I'm going to go back to the scan and let's look at some 4 hour. So I'm just going to change this D to 4 hours, hit scan. Okay, now we got some 4 hour triggers. So let's look at, I don't know, let's see Delta. And I got to go to the 4 hour chart. Okay, so again, why did it trigger? Because you had the value come below the red. And in this case, there's not a new trigger yet other than the last time was the cross to the upside, right? What I get real excited about, again, is when I have these moves and then I have something getting ready to come out in either direction of my oscillator, right? That's my favorites. Okay, let's take a look at Aflac. So I really like their commercials. Okay, so you had it come out. You have the cross. You're looking for upside movement on Aflac. Make sense? Yeah, we'll look at some more for sure. We'll look at different time frames just to give you an idea. So if I go back to scan, let's look at American Airlines. See, it broke through here to the upside with the cross, right? And again, what's really useful is if you just scrunch it, you can also see that rarely, right? Rarely does it go above the red in this particular stock. So when that happens, right, that can be pretty significant activity. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's look at General Dynamics. Cross to the upside. MFG below the red. Look for that move back to the upside. All right, let's take a look at the scan and let's go to a 5 minute. See if there's any good triggers on 5 minutes here. And let's look at, we haven't done this yet. I mean, it's just for kicks. Let's go to futures. All right, so silver. Let's take a look at silver. Just had a opportunity here. Then you go to sugar. We go back to that 5 minute. Okay, sugar to the upside. Sorry, silver, I had the wrong time frame. Well, silver. And by the way, when you get something like this, in my opinion, breaking through, you see how the oscillator is not doing a whole lot for you. What does that mean? Skip it, right? Ideally, what you like to see when this happens, right? You'd already like to see something down here or up here, okay? And that's the beautiful thing about the scans is you can be very selective and you can find trades, all time frames. You just got to be patient. Okay. That's the yen on the 5 minute. And yeah, so you can change, if you like futures, you can change it to 4 hour daily, everything like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to stocks, just kind of show you the 5 minute on some stocks. PayPal. So let's take a look at PayPal on the 5 minute. When I see it kind of hugging here, a lot of consolidation, I'm not ready to jump in on that. Okay. Okay. There's nothing telling me this is a great setup yet. See how quickly I can determine that though. AMC. Take a look. Same thing, it's kind of hugging here. We had a lot of consolidation. Let's see if I can find a stock that's actually decent for day trading on the 5 on here. Don't really like any of those. But yeah, so you can change this to like, if you just want to look at like the SPY, how that's, what's that showing you right now? So it's a 5 minute SPY. You can see the most recent was right here with the cross to the upside. And you can see that was for the day today, right? 9:30 is the US Open. It had the 1, right? So that's pretty significant, right? When it happens to that upside movement. Okay. All right, let me go back to daily. And I'm going to take some requests in a minute. You can type in what stocks, forex, or ETFs you want to look at. And we can take a look, okay? So before we do that, let me just bring over. So yes, I'm going to give you an offer today. We bring it up. So if you like that MFG indicator and the scan, okay, again, this is just for toss. It's a brand new launch. It's a pre-launch special. I'm giving $100 off what I'm going to be charging for $449. Okay. And I'll put this. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. I'll put that in the chat. Just bear with me a second. Let me grab that one so that you can see it. Okay, I just put that in the chat so you can grab that link. Okay, but yeah, so basically you get the scan, which again you can use on any time frame, and that MFG indicator. The sale price is today for $449. Now, if you also like the stochastic, which is one of my products, right? This custom stochastic. I'm also putting a discount on that. You can have them both for $748. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to put the second package in there as well for you all. Just bear with me. Let me grab it. Right here. That has the Stoch as well. Okay. There you go. All right. Let me grab some of the requests. Absolutely. Let's take a look. Let's see here. McDonald's. Yeah. Daily. McDonald's on the daily. Let's take a look. All right. So the most recent was right here on McDonald's, right? With the cross to, this is what I like to see, right? It's way down below the green coming back up. And so I like McDonald's to the upside based off of that. Does that make sense? So that's what that's what I like to look for. Exactly. Sure. XLE. Let's take a look. XLE. So we had a couple recent ones, right? You had one here with the bias to the downside. And actually this one didn't quite trigger. Yeah, so basically this was the last one on XLE. Costco, let's take a look. Yeah, I don't see anything on cost. Oh, 4 hour. We can take a look at the 4 hour. Sure. Yeah. So right here is the last 4 hour to the downside. Yep. That's Costco. And then what else? 4 hour. Since I'm on 4 hour BRP, let's take a look. So the most recent one on VRP is right here. Cross to the upside, VRP. Yeah, it's pretty consistent, right? It's just a matter of then executing and finding these in time. And that's what I love to use the scanner for. Yeah. Sure, Arlo. Let's take a look. Let's see. Can we look at Arlo on the daily? I think you meant daily on the Arlo. Let's take a look. So the most recent on is right here, but yeah, we had that consolidation like you mentioned, right? And then the cross to the upside. Yeah. IRCX, let's take a look. Never heard of IRCX. Let's take a look and see what it is. Oh, I'm sorry, LRCX. Yeah. Sorry, let me see if I can type right. I will get it, I promise. There we go. That was painful, wasn't it? Okay. So here to the upside. And then here, the last trigger, well, it's kind of hard to tell on the stochastic. It was either here or here, right? Depending on how aggressive you were, and not much of a move on that one. Yeah. This one here, moved to the upside. Comment on the dollar again. Yeah, no, that was a nice one. I agree. And you know, when you do get a lot of this consolidation, what I really look for when it breaks out like this one here, right, is to get the longer it consolidates, typically the larger you can get a move up to the upside. Absolutely. You're 100% correct on that. That's definitely how I've noticed it. Okay. Sure. Let's look at the ZN. Clear that for you. Okay. So nothing recent, right? This was the last one right here to the downside, which was this move here. But right now, nothing for this particular strategy. All right. So I told you it would not take long today. Again, if you're interested, I'll put those again in the chat. You know, the package one is just the MFG and custom scan. If you want the stochastic as well, $300 discount on that, both of those packages. Let me put those back in the chat for you. Any final questions on that? This is being recorded. Yep, absolutely. I'll post this. I will absolutely post this for you. So you can go back and watch. On tick charts, yeah. So here, let me just bring up a tick chart. So let's say you're trading the NQ and let's do like the 230, 233 tick. Okay, so obviously it moves much faster. You get a lot more opportunities there. But yeah, it works on any time frame because it's the same calculation. Yep. Yeah, I don't get many people ask about tick charts. That's fun. All right, just making sure I've answered all the questions. I know this is just for ThinkorSwim. Yep. All right. Well, again, I hope you all enjoyed. Again, just one of the techniques I use to reduce the choppiness of the market. I have found the scan to be invaluable. Okay, that's a scan you won't see anywhere else that I'm aware of. It's a custom scan. I like to find things quickly. I like to then create a watch list with some of my favorite setups based on the time frame I'm looking at, right? And then go ahead and take the trade. All right, folks, we'll have a great weekend coming up there, and I hope to see you all soon. Take care, everyone. Bye now.